YouTubers, welcome to Sharp Context Sports, where there's no touting, just tips and picks, analytics, and some tricks to give you an edge in the world of sports betting and fantasy sports. Come join us and help create a community for all of us to talk and enjoy sports together. Minnesota Vikings. Where do I start? Teddy Bridgewater? Trey Waynes? Sam Bradford? Anthony Barr? Keeping Linval too long? Rhodes? Who, by the way, probably spent more time on the bench crying injury after a big play. Then you got the O-line, who might be the softest O-line in the league. They got no nastiness to them. They're just soft. While they can be good and have their moments, but when they're up against a good defensive line, they just get abused. I'll tell you this. I'd rather go buy me a chihuahua to protect me than hire these guys to protect me. Because she'll have more bite and more bark than all of them combined. And then you drafted some rookies very high in the draft. And they can't even beat out undrafted free agents. That's some very troubling signs there. And then you have Kirk Cousins. But let's rewind the timeline here. It all starts with trading for Sam Bradford. You panicked, got desperate, and traded your first round pick to the Philadelphia Eagles for a 8-8 QB who could never win the big games. And that pick the Philadelphia Eagles got from the Vikings was used on a D-end who strip sacked Case Keenum in the NFC Championship to flip the game around. Not only did the Eagles rob you of a first round pick, they robbed you of a potential Super Bowl ring, and this year they robbed you of a true wide receiver one in Jalen Reagor. And speaking of robberies, Sam Bradford pulled off the biggest heist in NFL history, robbing NFL teams of well over $100 million. Not only that, he got coaches fired. In my opinion, that was the beginning of the end for the Minnesota Vikings when they traded for Sam Bradford. They should have had a backup plan instead of putting all their eggs in one basket on an injury-prone 8-8 QB who was never going to take you to the promised land. And then you go from one guy who wears number 8 to the next guy who wears number 8, who is also career average 8-8. Mr. Kirk Cousins. My man. So where do I start? He's a fraud. He had a lot of weapons in Washington and a pretty good defense with a lot of good coordinators, and he got nowhere. Let's look at the coordinators that was his OC in Washington. Sean McVay, who took Jared Goff to the Super Bowl. Kyle Shanahan, who took Matt Ryan and Jimmy G to the Super Bowl. And what did Kirk do? In a Week 17 game, it's a win and get in to make the playoffs. Giants had already locked up a playoff spot. So the bench players were just playing. And you know what happens? Kirk Cousins does Kirk Cousins things. He lost to the Giants' backups, just like he did a couple years ago against Chicago Bears in Week 17 too, right? And he's the first QB and first player to ever get fully guaranteed contract. Poor Vikings fans. You went from a fraud in Sam Bradford, and you get another fraud in Kirk Cousins. And to make things worse, they extended his contract. And you know what happened the same day that he signed his contract? Stephon Diggs got shipped out. The Buffalo Bills robbed the Minnesota Vikings. Damn, I think there's a theme here. Highway robbery. And let's not forget all the players that has left Minnesota to go win a Super Bowl. Like Kevin Garnett? Oh, that's basketball. Must be a Minnesota thing. Let's talk Mike Zimmer. I'll give Zimmer some credit. He came in to the Minnesota Vikings with the worst defense in the league and transformed that quickly. And the fact of the matter is, he just couldn't get the job done. Under Zims, he had offensive coordinators quitting, and it seemed like every year they have a new coordinator. And I believe his specialty was in the defensive backfield. But look what's happened. This past game against the Green Bay Packers was just an embarrassment. You drafted a corner in the first round, and you drafted another one in the third round, and they couldn't even beat out a second, maybe third year undrafted free agent. And that also includes Justin Jefferson, who you drafted to replace Stephon Diggs. He couldn't even beat out a second year undrafted free agent. Kind of sounds like Randy Moss all over again, huh? When they reached in the draft to pick up some dude, who I don't remember his name because he's so bad. History tends to repeat itself in Minnesota, huh? Now let's talk about Mike Zimmer's coaching. He's just too old school. It's a passing league now, and all he wants to do is run. If he could run it 100% of the time. Not only that, he's got to be the most conservative coach in the league. It's like he's playing not to lose instead of playing to win. He's so conservative that he keeps the other teams in. And oftentimes against good teams, they'll come back and beat them. He'll take advantage of that. His conservative nature has cost them many, many games against the good teams. So this is what I'd do if I were you guys. I would have never signed Dalvin Cook. I'd get rid of Kirk Cousins. Get rid of Mike Zimmer. Get rid of Anthony Barr. Trade Harrison Smith while he can still play a little bit. I'd say get rid of Rick Spielman too, but he's kind of on the bubble for me. So basically, just do a full rebuild. Get what you can get with the roster you have right now and just start over. Last year, you guys had a very easy schedule, you and the Packers. And you guys took advantage of that. And you guys got smashed by the 49ers. And what did you guys do after that? You re-signed Kirk, paid a running back, you got rid of your best player, Stephon Diggs, and now you guys are in cap hell. And your roster right now is just a borderline playoff team. So I just rebuild. And then you probably hire the KC offensive coordinator, Greg Roman from Baltimore if you want a running quarterback, Joe Brady in Carolina, and I'm sure there's a few more, but you could also go the college route too. Go get one of the coaches in college. So with all that said, I feel bad for you Vikings fans. Oh, and I should mention, because of Kirk Cousins, you guys passed up on Baltimore Ravens, Lamar Jackson,